Thank you so much. Recommendation number one, lower your expectations, please. Don't listen to Michiel. You probably encountered that sort of quite realistic story about what judges do before or after breakfast when they have to decide about the life of individuals, parole and everything else. They're much nicer after breakfast. And before lunch, oh, they are nasty. So please, I know it's lunchtime, I know it's been a long day, but don't act as the nasty judges that just because the lunch is not yet there on the table will be harsher. So treat the bits of philosophy that I'm going to share with you today with a view that it won't last not more than 20 or 25 minutes. So essentially, if you feel the pain, think in terms of going to the dentist. It has to be done, and it won't last long. The point that I want to share with you in terms of happiness is exactly what are we talking about when we talk about happiness. Happiness on life, as I will explain briefly. And in order to understand that, well, what sort of experience do we have now that we heard today and yesterday all these new digital technologies making such a difference in our lives? So a bit of a conceptual framework, why the digital is changing our lives so profoundly. What exactly are we talking about when we're talking about happiness? And what can we do about that kind of happiness? So the real challenge, first of all, is no longer technological innovation, but the governance of the digital. This is becoming clear to any big company and certainly to any big government. The Google, the Facebook, Microsoft, IBM, all companies with which we have ongoing projects back at the Digital Ethics Lab, they know this, and they've known this now for a little while. But what exactly is the governance of the digital? What do we mean by that? Well, I need to introduce a funny word in English, and I was reminded last night that I better be careful about this, because not everybody, like myself included, was born with that language. English has the funny word, which is to cleave. Now, please do have a look at the slide, because it's a long kind of a description of how two words, and I know that distinction is also in Dutch, the Old English kleofan, which means to cut through, and the Old English cleafian, which means to stick, came together. So today, to cleave means at the same time to put together, but also to split. In other words, it's the best word to express cut and paste in one word. That's what to cleave does, is a cut and paste depending on the context. So if you are going out with someone interesting and she starts talking about cleaving, you're not quite sure whether that it's good news or bad news, until the context starts sort of explaining that, no, she really does mean that she doesn't want to see you anymore. Or no, there's room for a coffee. So this is what the digital is doing to us. It has transformed our lives so profoundly, and it keeps transforming our lives so profoundly because it has this cleaving power. Cut and paste two things: stuff and ideas about stuff coming from the past few centuries. Experiences and what we think about those experiences when we thought that they were not splittable, and they are being split, or they were totally separate, and now they're glued together in a single experience. So that exactly is what, for example, has happened to presence and location. Presence and location was in the past a single experience, but the digital has split this into two halves. And I can see already a few of your faces like, oh, there's a little bunch of philosophy. Are we going to really wait for this another 20 minutes? So those of you, please pay attention, because that is exactly what banks did not understand, and that's why they're closing down branches. Banks were created at a time when location and presence was a single thing. You had to go to the bank to, say, deposit that money. No longer. So what would be an example of a place where you still have to go there to have the experience? Well, a coffee shop. And that's the same experience in the United States. So coffee shops go up and bank branches go down. Why? The splitting power of the digital. You can multiply this for a lot of other things. This is what Europe looked like in 1646, just after Westphalia. We glued together, a few centuries ago, law and territoriality, meaning my place, my rules, your place, your rules. We thought it was a done deal, and we thought so for many centuries. Of course, now we have split this again. In cyberspace, we just heard, if you have a different kind of citizenship elsewhere, well, you can do a lot of things cross-border, and the territoriality of the law, well, becomes really complicated. Trust me, with the right to be forgotten, that was a big headache. So you get the gist. We're putting together, we are splitting online and offline. Well, there's so much 90s. If you still think that someone asked that question, are you online, are you offline? Well, you're really not joining yet the 21st century, where we all live Onlife, a program that I headed for the European Commission on impact of digital technologies on citizens. And the space, of course, is mixed as well. It's analog and digital at the same time. It's where the river meets the sea. If you ask there, is the water sweet or salty? You haven't understood where you are. Because it's brackish water. It's a bit salty, a bit sweet. Is that space of infosphere where we are all getting together, million by million by million of individuals. And our identity, well, of course, it's informational now. Data subject, that's another way in which the digital has made a single unit of something that in the past was separated. I could multiply this, blockchain, production and consumption, you name it. But the point is, okay, well, if this is all going on, I live in the infosphere, I live on life. The sort of cleaving power of the digital is transforming all this. So what kind of happiness are we talking about? Some of you actually read the original book. If you haven't, I won't spoil for you the joke. But there is such a thing as Life, a user's manual. Don't miss it. It's a great book. But do we need a digital user's manual? Well, we're getting to the point. Of all things that governance can do in a world that lives on life, in the infosphere, in a context where the splitting and gluing together is happening on a daily basis, what about happiness? What have we heard all these days in terms of what is it, happiness on life? Well, happiness on life can be many things depending on whose happiness are we talking about. Are we talking the world's happiness? Well, if it is the world's happiness, then we have the Happy Planet Index, for example, in terms of environmental impact. Is the world a better place, happier? Green, highest rank, brown, lowest rank. Look who's green, and look who's really brown there. So that's one way of talking about happiness, the world's happiness, or the population's happiness, or Human Development Index. You get a completely different map, different colors. Dark green, highest rank. Red, lowest rank. Well, very different now in terms of who is happy, who is not. You can keep going because it's not the world, it's not the population, and maybe it's just that society. What is the Gini index? Inequality and everything else. Better rank, worse rank. You get the picture, and then again, different kind of mapping. So you should really be careful when, oh, happiness. Whose happiness exactly are we talking about? Now, normally, when you got these three maps, that's not the happiness you think about. I was quite surprised by one of the comments today, like, what is it all about? It's about we, us, me. No, it isn't. I'm afraid, gentlemen. It's about you, and you. The old idea, because I'm worth it, is so 90s. Not even L'Oreal uses it anymore. Even L'Oreal says, because you are worth it. Aha, they got it. So, okay, let's for a moment think that we still stick in some kind of individualistic, egoistic, consumeristic perspective. Okay, my happiness. Eudaimonia is the Greek word, no, Aristotle onwards, is the happiness of the individual, that special equilibrium that makes you saying, yeah, this is a good life. What does it look like in this infosphere when the mangrove grow? Remember, brackish water, the river, the sea? Well, in that context, this moment of happiness, well, requires a definition. And maybe one thing that we can say is that my happiness, again, not the world's, not the society, not the nation, not anyone else, the me sort of moment, which, of course, we all exercise so easily, indulging into that sort of egoistic perspective? Well, when it's about me, it's the incremental fulfillment of hope. I have hopes, and as long as I fulfill them incrementally, I get a little bit happier every day. And anything that goes against it, well, disappointing. So there's something about happiness that can be kind of analyzed. It's a matter of fulfillment, incremental, of something else, hope. But what exactly is hope? And this is the moment when I told you, be nice. I know lunch is coming, so don't be the nasty judges. Be patient with me. There's a long tradition, and for once we're all pretty much on the same page. Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas, Hobbes, Hume, myself. Your average philosopher thinks that hope is a matter of two things. It's desire and belief about what is probable. And that's the little formula there for the more mathematically oriented in the group. A hopes that P means that A desires that P and believes that P is possible. It would be a bit irrational to think that you hope that something that you know didn't happen actually happened. Well, I hope that the Second World War never happened. No, that's wrong English, to say the least. Or you're really confused. But you may hope that you win the lottery tomorrow, even if the probability of that is slim. And then you keep winning every time you buy the lottery ticket, there's still something you can hope for, because it's still rational. Slim and slim and slimmer. So with that in mind, well, you know now something that I hope you didn't know before. How do I manipulate happiness? If happiness is the gradual fulfillment of hope, by manipulating hope. And how do I manipulate hope? Well, hope has two components. One is desire, and the other one is belief. And that's what exactly does advertisement. It manipulates desire and belief. It tells you that you need to desire that, you will be happier. And desiring that is totally rational. I'm never going to have the money for that car. Oh, but maybe you're going to win the lottery. And maybe, just maybe, you're going to have enough money to buy that beautiful car, which is so desirable, will make you happy. That's just the story behind most of what we do. Manipulation of hope in terms of belief and desire. So increasing the desire that P is the case is behind everything we do, and the manipulation of increasing the belief that it is actually probable. So 5 problems now in this context. Now we've done the hard sort of work. Some examples for everyday life. You probably are, some of you, in the industry of programmatic advertising. It's the reason why I see that pair of shoes as opposed to that T-shirt when I click on Google. Someone is fighting really hard for that moment and those attention span. It's called programmatic advertising. We spent in 2017 $33 billion on it, just so that I could see the shoes, not the T-shirt. We might spend a lot of time indicating how wasteful this is, but that's another story. This is about adaptability. How adaptable am I? Because my hope, my wish, my belief, etc., they're all in the hands of something really firm, insistent, there, constantly pushing, called artificial intelligence, machine learning, smart algorithms, etc., big data. And if any of you has ever had the impression that you are the stone, and these are just drops of water falling on the stone, remember what happens to the stone once 1 billion of those drops have been falling on that stone. The drops shape the stone. This stuff is shaping human happiness, and as we go, without knowing exactly what's happening to us. Democratization. This is something, again, that we know, but not entirely focus on. Are we happier once, say, artificial intelligence is going to be in the pocket of everyone in this room? At the moment, it's in the hands of a handful of companies, but it will percolate through. And I'm not talking about Singularity and Terminator. I'm talking about the average, ordinary, tab-on kind of ability to solve problems. In that context, remember, happiness is about hope. Hope is about desire and belief. How much are we going to influence our overall game of being happy by having democratized the ability to solve problems? Dependency. Well, we are increasingly dependent on these technologies as we speak. We're building more and more complex infrastructures in order to deal with complexity through more complexity. In this case, of course, those who live by the digit may die by the digit, which means that your happiness is being increasingly grounded on, shall we say, shaky or fragile foundations. It doesn't have to be that way. We could do something more as we speak in terms of making sure that those foundations are robust. That is something that we should investigate as we speak. Freedom. Remember the glue and remember the cutting and pasting, remember the stone and the drop on the stone. Well, freedom, this is a case of predicting policing where we use big data and enormous amount of AI to try to understand whether the terrorist attack will happen, organized crime will strike again. This predicting policing and anything that looks like that, is it going to increase our happiness? No. Fulfillment, regularly, no, increasingly of our hopes, or is it going to undermine our hopes in terms of, oops, wrong solution, wrong mistake, now you are on the wrong side of the divide. Responsibility, and with this I finish, because those are the 5 challenges I want to share with you. Who is going to be responsible in all this when decisions are being taken in such a distributed manner so that in the loop there are bits of technology, bits of AI, bits of bureaucracy, a few people, and back again. So when the responsibility is so distributed, how do you deal with the ultimate goal, which was to make these people happy? Remember, fulfillment, gradually, of hope. Now, in all this, there are some risks and there are some opportunities. The risks are escapism. Remember, we are on life. I want to play that game again and again. I'm going to watch the whole TV series. I don't care. Absorption, in terms of attention. I'm going to be so focused on this, I won't see anything else. Alienation. I'm going to be distracted. Manipulation, nudging. The drop and the stone. Normalization. It's okay. That's group behavior. No, you shouldn't bite your nails. Oh, but I belong to the group, the defense of the nail-biting individual in the world. We're already 1,000 people. Yeah, that's okay. That's normalizing behavior because there are many of us, but it's not quite right yet. Let alone other things like papers of a paradise kind or sexual inclinations, including in the British Parliament. No, that's not normal, even if all of you are doing. But there are also opportunities. Remember the cut and paste of the digital? That transforms the world for us, depending on our design. That's the other side of the cut and paste. The game today is happiness. Happiness as fulfillment of hope, desire, and belief. And there are opportunities there. Empowerment, control, enrichment, fulfillment, meaningfulness, companionship. You heard so much about every single word. I'm not going to bother you with any explanation. We know what we're talking about. That's the other strand. The other road that we could take if we want to. So back to what we can do. If all this is, imagine chapter 1. So chapter 2 is, so what? It's up to us. Well, innovation comes in 3 strands every time since we left the caves. It's a bit of discovery, it's a bit of invention, it's a bit of design. You discover, America on the other side of the Atlantic, you invent the wheel, or you design an iPhone. Today, it's much more about design. Because of this cutting and pasting provided by the digital, we have much more freedom in terms of constraints and affordances to put things differently. We watch some amazing presentations today showing exactly how much we can do more today in terms of design. That is where I know you know, I'm just reminding you, the added value lies. And if that is the case, then a value-driven design for ICTs becomes essential. Remember, we are in the business of happiness. The desire, the belief, the management of that, and the very first slide. Oh, wasn't it all about governance? Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Proper governance of ICTs means value-driven. And so, coming to the end, what kind of project do we want to put in place if all these elements have to be squared in a single sort of analysis? Well, capitalism used to be a matter of consuming hope, consumerism. We could actually have capitalism as the creation, the engine of wealth, joining something else, fostering hope, the right sort of hope. Remember, whose hope are we talking about? Oh, the world's, the society's, the population's, the person's happiness. We can actually square all this, but it's not going to be easy. Guess what? It would require some amazing politicians, a short supply. To conclude, there's much that can be done. There's much that needs to be understood. Things are not more of the same, not at all. Our age is the age of design. I think it should be the age of good design, as in something that supports the sort of happiness that we can enjoy on life. Thank you.
Luciano.
More confused?
As always, I'm completely confused.
Excellent, that's the whole point.
But I like that, you know that, because it keeps an open mind, right? Confusion. But I was having a little bit of fun with Menno, so we were thinking about the question that would piss you off the most. And I think
before lunch, exactly.
I think I found it.
Okay, go ahead.
Just before lunch. So this morning we talked about technology versus humanity. Last week I heard that so this whole e-residency, this digital residency, that Saudi Arabia has awarded citizenship to a robot. You talked about digital agency. So my question, actually I have 3 questions and you can choose to answer one.
See which one pisses me most.
Yes. Do machines have rights? Are machines entitled to happiness? Or do machines have hope?
Excellent. So, insane,
which one do you choose?
Insane. How about that? So,
So it worked, right?
Do we actually want to get out of the bubble, normally a Hollywood/Californian bubble, and just look outside the window, just right there, and any car, any bicycle, whatever you can look at there, which is an artifact, and truly look in my eyes and says, do they have rights? You must be joking.
But if they become
are they happy or not? You must be joking.
But if they become so intelligent, wouldn't it be a criminal act to switch the intelligence
Then we
off?
are shifting gear, and it's one of those games that you shouldn't play. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Choose your card. You never win. Because of course there's a trick here. The trick is, imagine that they were like us. Well then, of course, they would have hope and rights and emotions. The point is, if then, but the trick is played by making you assuming the if. If they have our intelligence, our emotions, anything that you want to have as a package, humanity, endowed there in some sort of engineering smart way, well, of course, it follows that they will have the same rights, the same emotions, the same kind of, more or less. I deny the if. Imagine, if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were to appear right now, here, would you be scared? Yes, enormously. Are you scared? No, of course not. It's not going to happen. So if someone like Star Wars, whatever, Terminator, were just to crash right now from the door, let's hope it's not going to happen. But imagine for a moment, then I would be the first to run through the window. Trust me, it's not going to happen.
But the singularity is near.
Is near in the minds of those who need to make us distracted from the real problems. Let me just remind you, since we are getting a bit more serious here, every day there are 700 million people who don't have access to clean water. That is a tragedy. The singularity is a big joke.
So it's clear to me I won't manage to actually have you lose your temper.
Of course not.
But I've
tried. I have a British passport. You should know that. 3 years ago I saw it coming, so I said, better get a British passport so I can be an Italian with a British passport in Oxford. Yeah, that's what philosophy does to you. Makes you see the future happening.
So
trust me.
So you hope for the best, but there's always an if.
Ready for the worst.
Exactly.
Philosophy.
Yeah. Luciano, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.